Well, welcome to my mass media analysis. I'm Seth Myers, and I am going to be looking at the economists and looking at the demographic. Before we can jump into the demographic, particularly though, we need to understand the culture behind the magazine. Culture is an important way that we identify with different cultures as individuals, but our book defines culture as the entire way of life of a group of people. And so advertisers seek to utilize culture to present their product as fitting into your culture. You as the consumer need the producer's product. If I can make you feel like I'm a part of your culture, then you're more likely to buy something from me. And so this is a helpful way to identify who's reading this. Is simply to ask the question, well, what's the culture surrounding it? And we're going to do that today. But now let's look at the demographic for The Economist. Some places, some magazines are harder to find. Who are they trying to reach? Who are they actually trying to get to? What message do they want to get across? And The Economist didn't cut any corners. They didn't try to add unnecessary fluff to who they were trying to reach. They simply put in the About Us section a quote from a former editor, which says, The Economist is a Friday view paper where readers with higher than average incomes, better than average minds, but less than average time can test their opinion against ours. We try to tell the world about the world, to persuade the expert and reach the amateur with an injection of opinion and argument. They really were quite straightforward here. They are trying to connect with the cultural elites, those who work in universities, those who work in politics, those who are higher in the business scale. They're seeking to set themselves apart from some sort of lower class standards and say, hey, we're really focusing on the upper middle class to high class or upper class demographic. This is not for the average Joe. This is a paper that will require a sharper mind, someone trained in the academic world. And I commend them for not trying to hide who they were. They really just went out and said it and felt like they could do that. So now let's focus on some of the ads. This is a swath that I've taken just from my reading of The Economist. We're not going to talk about all of these different categories, banking being the one we're going to skip, only because the edition that I'm using for my focus is the July 3rd through 9th of 2021, and there were no banking ads, surprisingly, as they tend to make up about 25 to 30% on average of all ads in The Economist, or investments or banking of some sort. So I was a little surprised that we didn't see any in this edition, but we'll talk about what we do see and focus on how these different companies seek to define themselves and seek to orient themselves with the readers of The Economist. So let's continue. There are two different watch companies that we are going to talk about. The first one being Blancpain watches, and the second one being Rolex. We're going to compare the two, but note that there's a lot of similarities despite the seemingly difference. In this Blancpain ad, there's something really visual. Look at the picture. It's a diving watch. We can see some sharks hanging out on the ocean floor, with on that top right or top left, excuse me, an ocean exploration vehicle going down and doing research. And that picture really goes to lay a backbone for what they say in the writ part of the article. And it's interesting to note that, like The Economist, Blancpain is seeking to established themselves as a modern classic, meaning that the technology they're using is 70 plus years of experience doing it. So they've refined this process. They're making the best of the best, but also they're seeking to push forward the push forward the technology when it comes to watches, just as the Economist seeks to kind of push forward this more progressivist type view on the world. So we can see also that in the write-up, they hit on a couple different of those focuses that we saw on the previous slide. I'll just read to you this middle paragraph, and we'll talk about it just for a second here. The middle paragraph says, with its almost 70-year legacy of the 50 Fathoms, the brand has woven close ties with explorers, photographers, scientists, and environmentalists. With that affinity has come a determination to support important activities dedicated to ocean exploration and conservation. So we see here, and we'll just go back and just see here, the environment was one of those focuses, and also these high dollar or luxury type items, as it should be written. Blancpain basically says, that's us. Both of those focuses can be summarized in us. We've been making this for a long time. We are high class, but yet we're dedicated to the environment. We have this sense of stewardship and not ownership, which is a value claim. They're claiming that kind of preserving this earth or this world is a great importance to them, as important as the watches they make themselves. So Rolex, again, they don't take on that in more environmental side, but they do certainly look at the modern classic as you see pictures of Wimbledon, which is, of course, the great tennis match, or matches, I should say, in England. The Economist base is in England, so there's a bit of a connection there. But more so, just kind of this clean, high-performance watch that has years of research, and you expect nothing but greatness, just as you would do at Wimbledon if you were watching that. Again, you can see some of the champions of Wimbledon in these pictures, so that just kind of goes to reinforce that high class. So now let's look at Fujifilms. Fujifilms falls into that health category that we talked about, and their value is that world health is of utmost importance. Seeking new ways. Again, you can see it right here. We will never stop innovating for a healthier world. So you see a picture of a scientist presumably doing research, although you can't see what he's researching, he or she is researching. You can see that they're doing research. They're pushing for innovation in the health world, particularly when it comes to COVID-19, as that's been on all of our minds, I think, for the past year and a half or so. And again, they're making a value statement here. Every company has one of these, and theirs is world health. The next one is going to be more of this environmental focus as we look at Tetra Pak. Tetra Pak is a food packing company, and they're asking the question, what if we changed how we do food packaging to be more environmentally responsible? Can we save more species that are going extinct? And their aim, their creation is based on that model of protecting the environment and protecting the endangered species. Again, what's the value? Well, the earth is something to be stewarded, and you can steward it if you care about the earth. You can steward it through Tetra Pak, which is committed to responsibly managed forests and sustainable food packaging. All right, the last one I want to talk about today is maybe the most interesting one, I would say, as we see two sociological points here, and that's counterculture and culture wars. Let's just read the article and we'll talk about it for a half second. Create the beauty that moves the world. We believe in beauty for all. In 2018, we were among the first companies to sign the United Nations LGBTI Standard of Conduct for Business to combat all forms of discrimination. Why is this interesting? Well, because they set to seek themselves as countercultural or standing against status quo, being one of the first companies to establish themselves with the LGBTI community. And in doing so, they're undertaking cultural world wars, and the cultural war is just this battle of ideas between two people. They're saying we are establishing war on what has previously been this a marriage as a heterosexual male and female relationship. We're seeking to move more on that, and this is a beautiful thing in their opinion. Obviously, as a Christian, I do not agree with that at all, but they do. This is the premise for their argument. So overall, here's some of my references, but overall we can see that The Economist is kind of this they're this academic elite. We see that through the environmental discussions, but we see also through ads on the luxury items and packaging and healthcare that they are set apart as this humanitarian, cutting edge, with the times magazine designed for viewers of the upper class or higher middle class. So thank you for watching. It's been a fun discussion for me. Cultural analysis is something that I always enjoy doing. So thank you and have a great day.